He's ready.
Yeah, here we go. And warmest greetings to everyone. Welcome to the Christian Whistleblower Podcast Extraordinaire channel. We're so glad to have you here. It's Sunday morning. You know what that means. I'm joined by my good friend, Wayne Steiger, with a space heater in his chilly office. How you doing this morning, Wayne?
Doing great. Fantastic day, Jeff. How are you, my friend? Besides being cool here, yeah, it's doing good.
I'm good, and like everyone else, I'm wondering what the rest of your shirt says. I just see long.
Long live vinyl.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
Yeah.
I know some people that would agree with you on that.
Yeah, I mean, it's still got that. It's odd, in my day, it was a pain in the ass to hear the crackles. You'd always get it. But now it's like people say, well, that's the golden sound.
But acoustically, vinyl's not of as high a quality, correct?
That is correct. Yeah, It's true.
Yeah. But people still like it.
They like the sound because it did have a unique sound to it. It really did. And, it's like the 8-track tapes.
I remember those.
Oh, man, what a pain in the ass they were. But, it's the same type of that quality. My first stereo was a reel-to-reel.
Okay, I remember those, too. Yeah. They still have those, right?
Yeah. And it was a reel-to-reel tape. And, you would buy the songs and they would come on these little rolls here. But, yeah, great sound.
Well, I bet they don't make those anymore.
No, and that's what got me into the video and post-production business, and worked in Nashville on Music Row, sat in many of those studios. And, yeah, I love it, man. Love it.
Interesting stuff. Dolby noise, somebody says.
Yeah. And in fact, I was, in my time of selling drugs when I was 16, I also worked in a stereo shop. And
of course you did.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good place to find customers. But quadraphonic sound, it was really a unique experience. And there were a number of groups. The Who put out Quadrophenia, the Beach Boys live from Holland. And it's just interesting to see today where digital surround sound actually was the old quad sound.
Interesting. Very interesting. And what were you doing when you rubbed shoulders, so to speak, with Mr. George Norrie?
Oh, that was in St. Louis. George had bought Laclede Productions from Laclede Utilities. And it was interesting that a utility company had actually built a post-production facility. And I was coming in with another group from Atlanta.
Oh, interesting.
And George and I met at the same property, Crameltro property. I remember right off 40. And that son of a bitch, got the property the lease before we did.
No, that's funny.
And long story short, we ended up buying his facility.
Interesting.
So that's where I know George Norrie from.
Now, George started off in St. Louis as the Night Ranger, did he not?
I believe he did. Yeah. He, George was truly an entrepreneur, but of a disciplined type.
Interesting. Yeah. So the smart money says that George Norrie never sold drugs.
No. And by the way,
he wasn't as creative an entrepreneur as you.
Now we're talking vast time differences. The story with the quad, that was back in 1972. The event with George was back in I think we consummated the deal in 88, 89. Yeah.
Gotcha. Interesting. And congratulations go out to all the people in St. Louis for the St. Louis Blues won their first Stanley Cup championship, and long-suffering fans of St. Louis, congratulations to you.
They did go through a drought, did they not?
The longest drought in at least hockey history, I think professional sports history, without a championship of some. Yeah. Tracy says, Wayne, you were actually an independent pharmaceutical distributor.
I was, Tracy. Absolutely. That's where I got my sales training at.
That's right.
What better place is there?
Yeah, but you don't really have to hard sell drugs, do you?
No, actually, you do.
Really?
Story. Yeah. So back in the day on Sundays, we called it Freedom Park, and They used to have bands out there, and the Children of God would have their bus, and there was like free food. All you'd have to do was listening to them. And then down in the woods, there was Dealer Row. And, a person could literally walk down there, and if you were looking for hallucinogenics or pot, it was a hard sell at some times.
Interesting. And of course, it's Father's Day. So as all the happy Father's Day are coming in the chat room, we return those to all the fathers out there.
Yeah. It takes two to tango.
And we hope you mothers have a happy Father's Day too.
Yeah.
And so there's some fathers that are mothers too, Wayne, but we won't get into that.
And Alice's Restaurant. Father rapers, mother rapers. Yeah. So how's your week been, buddy?
My week has been very interesting. It really has.
Yeah.
A lot of some interesting stuff taking place, but it's all good, and it's all about learning and growing and learning how to just to move on through,
Mm-hmm. Yep. So I have been taken aback. By the way, here's a question for you. Or I guess actually it's just kind of a point of view. But aren't all spirits voyeurs?
Voyeurs?
Yeah.
Aren't all spirits voyeurs? That's an interesting point. I guess there might be some that are disinterested, that don't care, but I mean, all the ones that interact with you certainly would be voyeuristic.
Yeah, you would think. There's no
That's like, are there really angels watching you all the time, Wayne?
That's my point.
All the time?
All the time? Come on, folks. Well, maybe they do because, with humans, I contend that we are our own God, because in sex, I've heard person after person, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Then you see in the middle.
Do men say that too, or just women?
Oh, hell, men say it too,
Okay.
Yeah. And then
I never had sex with a man, so, I just wasn't sure.
Well, in your moment of ecstasy with a woman, then you also have it in the tragedy. When there's an accident.
Oh, that's right.
People will say, oh my God, oh my God. Isn't it odd that they don't say the God? They say my God.
Do Muslims cry out, oh Allah, and do, other people cry out, oh Hare Krishna or whatever? Do they cry out, oh God?
They say, oh God. They say,
Isn't that interesting?
God. Yeah.
Isn't that interesting?
I don't know. Makes you think that maybe truly we are our own God. I've been reading the...
and you're calling upon your own power of self.
Exactly.
So a lot of times when you call out, I called out on God and the aliens left. So I praise Jesus. Well, dummy, you were just called out on your own self, and you finally woke up and the aliens left because of you, not because of plastic Jesus.
By the way...
He gets all the credit, none of the blame, Wayne.
All the time.
And I'm jealous.
I guess the Baptists in our area are doing, I guess it must be Vacation Bible School time and whatever. Anyway, they were doing yesterday, I guess, their door-to-door evangelism.
Boy.
They, the two women that unfortunately came to our house, I don't know if they're ever going to be the same.
Did you ask him if God was a Christian?
Oh, we got that. And what I actually started out with, I said, so let me understand, you believe in Jesus, who was Jewish, and I wanted to make sure I had the whole chronology right. And one was an older woman, one was a younger woman. And the younger woman said, oh, yes. And the reason why I knew, because one had their Bible, actual Bible, the older woman. The younger woman had her iPad. There you go.
Nice.
So I said, I have a real problem. She said, there's a sign I have outside our front door, and it says, all those who walk through here, may they be blessed with wisdom, safety, etc. She says, I see that you're a very religious family. I said, no, actually, we're not. But I said, go ahead. And she went on with that. And I said, so I said, in Exodus 3:16-21, and here's this older woman.
But you lost her already because she's like, Exodus. I never read that one.
And I said, here's the problem with what my household believes. We can't worship a God that would kill another human being. Isn't murder wrong?
Ooh.
This young woman looked at me, and the older woman's jaw literally dropped. And I said, and here's the problem. I said, so you're telling me that now God's a Christian, but it's very clear that before he started this Hebrew religion and he murdered humans. I said, so what is your Jesus doing? The woman said, thank you very much. We've had enough.
And down they went, huh?
And off they went. And I could see the men, they were on the other side of the street. And, I guess the older woman must have had an ashen look on her face because these two guys come walking up to her and they're looking at our house. And anyway, yeah.
But they were actually going door to door. That's pretty unusual.
Yeah, and that's what Lynn said. She said, the Baptists typically, she said, I could remember back in the day when there was Vacation Bible School that they would kind of spread out and want all the kids to come in. But anyway, go figure.
Yeah, when I was an evangelist, I used to do that. When I was going to preach, I'd go around, at least around the church and knock on doors and invite people. And this one time, and this was crazy, I went and knocked on a door and invited this girl to come out. And she opens the door. She had a .38 revolver in her hand. She said, I was just about to kill myself. I'll be there.
Well, listen, I don't have, destiny is destiny. And when a person gets to the point where despair is the only thing that they have left, I don't care what God it is. If it brings them back from the abyss, so be it.
Absolutely. Letty says, so does it not come down to the ends do not justify the means, but Christians have to believe just the opposite, that the ends do justify the means? Or the thing that I just can't say, well, God is holy enough, he can kill whoever he wants.
Well, and that's what we were taught. I remember Kenneth Copeland talking about this, that we don't understand the justice of God, quote unquote.
Right.
And that is the coverall. But in our discussions, and, I've challenged any Christian to explain to me, Christianity never had a God. They never had a deity. They had a doctrine. They had a Roman structure, and that's what Christianity is, very well structured, the Catholic Church, but they never had a God. I mean, That was a problem.
You think about it, Wayne, from at least AD 300, when Constantine proclaimed Christianity to be the religion of the realm, for as long as the Catholic Church was completely in control, which was at least 1700 years, they were the original mainstream media. Religion, Christianity specifically, was, and I maintain still is, fake news.
Of the highest kind. So I've been teaching sigil magic. And Jeff, I got a hold of two books called the 6th Book of Moses and the 7th Book of Moses. I mean, whoa. I mean, if Christianity is a morphed progression of Judaism, which we're told Judeo-Christian, right? Then the roots are steeped in magic, dark magic.
Well, the roots are at least steeped, as you so eloquently stated, within Judaism, and the very tenets of Judaism are the doctrines of the scribes and the Pharisees, and the central figure of the Christian mythos said, beware of the doctrine of the scribes and Pharisees. Yet you have all these people out here today that want to say, oh no, we're not Christians, but they're hanging on to doctrines of the scribes and Pharisees. And as the man said, a little leaven leavens the whole lump. Any connection to Judeo-Christian, any connection to Pharisaic and Sadduceic, any connection to anything blood, sacrifice, atonement related, that's leaven, and it will leaven your whole lump, and you cannot claim to be clean when you're not clean.
Exactly. And as you can read right here on the conjuration, you read this is an invocation of spirits, Yahweh. God. And his whole host, whether it's Adonai, you can see all the names right here. And there's one other I want to show you. It says with the seventh book, it gets even stranger.
What happened to the first 5 books?
That's the Torah.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah. And so look at this one. Jehovah Father, Deus Adonai, Eli, I cite thee through Jehovah, Deus Sanctidae, Iada, I conjure thee through Adonai.
You know what that tells me? That tells me that whoever they're summoning is a entity that can be summoned. And I would submit to you, without any fear of contradiction, at least in my mind, the true deities cannot be summoned. So who is that who they're summoning? Less than a true deity.
It's, I don't know, my friend. I just wanted to share that with you just to let you see. It's
some might say that proves he's a demon.
So the reason why I went down this whole rabbit hole to begin with was that if you go and look at some of the old artist descriptions of the Hebrews in the desert, it shows Moses, which is Moshe, which means magus. Magus means magician. They were in the desert with these sigils opening up portals. I mean,
oh, absolutely.
That's the only thing you can come to, Jeff.
Anne-Marie Paul asked an interesting question, and let's talk about this a little bit. She says, why can't the true deities be summoned?
Well, I don't know if we know their names.
And my first response is, well, if they're the true deities, do you really think, number one, that they are listening to all of our words? And number two, do you think they're ready to come running when we ring our little bells? I would say to you, no. It's like the whole story that Travis Thorpe shared with me. He's a Triskelion Wiccan priest, and not scary at all, really a very learned and knowledgeable spiritual guy. And he talks about, people and how they think God's going to respond to them, or gods are going to respond to them. They're on a river, and they got to get from one side to the other, and they start praying, "Oh, gods, help us!" Pick a god, Hecate, whatever. Oh, help me! And he says they won't even listen to you. And then you keep crying and crying, and they're going to ignore you. But all of a sudden, if you decide, well, let me build a boat, and then start calling on God to help, they might look at you. Then maybe if you build a sail, then maybe if you actually get yourself out in the river and start trying to paddle, and if you finally get to the place where you're exhausted, your ship's going to sink, you've done all you can, then maybe a god might listen to you. Maybe.
And then the whole journey and this struggle, it was you the whole time.
And yeah, I agree with you 100%. It was you the whole time.
It was.
And folks, we are going to abide by regulations and guide posts, I guess, of YouTube. We're not going to talk bad about any specific religions or any specific people. And if you continue to do it, I will have to block you from the channel. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's getting tough out there.
It is. We need to abide by those guidelines.
And that's
if you remember when you first logged on, it said, please abide by the guideline. Welcome to live chat. Remember to guard your privacy and abide by our community guidelines. So we are going to do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Those guidelines are ever evolving, as we have found out.
And Anne-Marie asked a great question. Can't we just say, I call in more light into my being? I would say, yes, we could. And that's not necessarily and I think you can call in the light of the true deities without actually requiring the true deities to respond, because I think the true deities are in many ways omnipresent. But Cynthia L. makes an interesting statement too. When we say things like, I call in more light into my being, is it possible, she says, can an unbalanced entity respond to that and disguise himself as a being of light? What do you say, Wayne?
It's crowded out there.
It is crowded out there.
And I have some really cool people that write. it's becoming very obvious to myself and to others that we have been lullified by this belief that when we die, that we're going to pass on and everything is going to be taken care of. And in Western culture, it's pretty much the duality. You'll go up or
Right.
you go down. Eastern dogma says no, it's all around, and and that's truly what it is. And so I have become convinced I am not. If consciousness is transmuted at the point of departure of the spirits of the body and the of the spirit itself, Jeff, then I want to be prepared. I don't want to be afraid.
Yeah.
I don't want to be manipulated by other higher intelligences. And if I don't figure this sovereignty thing out, then someone else is going to have my sovereignty.
Yeah. And, going back to Anne Marie's question, I think about this because I'm a parent. I've got 3 kids. And, a lot of times when they get in trouble, they want to call me, or have in the past wanted to call me to bail them out. And there's sometimes, Wayne, when I know that they are calling me for some help and some assistance, and I don't answer because they need to learn to be divine. They need to learn to be sovereign. They need to learn to be free. They need to learn consequences. They need to learn to handle their own business. So that would be another thing of why perhaps if you call out to a deity, they wouldn't answer, because they're like, come on, grow up, be a big girl, be a big boy, learn how to do your own stuff. You're supposed to be a God in training, not a God baby forever.
Yeah, and I think that's the problem with humanity is that we've depended on unseen deities to guide and direct us, and the whole time we had it to begin with. Jeff, I contend what we live today and we call bodies, what we call human beings, Homo sapiens sapiens, I don't think that this is the peak of the pyramid. I think that we're way down. I think there was a greater version of us at one time. And if it is a recyclable machine, then the only thing that I come to conclusion with reincarnation, then why? Because basically, technically, you and I are living the future of our ancestors past. And if you carry it out further, so we're on this quest to, I guess, somehow perfect ourselves through multiple lives, multiple life experiences. It's always interesting when I see people who do the regression of past lives. They're always someone great and famous. I want to know about the guy who's hauling out the shit.
Yeah, I don't know if I don't know if they did that back then, Wayne, because I've never heard anyone about that. Before we get off this one track, Anne Marie's a spiritual teacher. She's an advanced soul, and I think she's advocating a school of thought that a lot of people in the New Age have. And if I'm overstating it or oversimplifying it, I apologize. But basically, within the New Age, there's this idea of, if we call in light, we're always going to get light. If we say to beings, are you of the light? They say yes, that they can't lie. What do you think about that mindset, Wayne? Do you think that's accurate?
Here's the problem with that, and it's just me. And the spectrum of light far exceeds that which we call white light. Light is expansive beyond our comprehension of human recognition and human cognition. I don't know what the light is. Now,
great point.
It's like saying love. In the Western culture, we use love very freely. I love flowers. I love chocolate. I love my wife. I love my kids. So
I love the St. Louis Blues.
Yeah. Another person could say, I love murder. I love hate. So when we call in the light, what light are you talking about?
Right. I think at the bottom line, if you yourself are of a sufficient spiritual maturity where you can discern between things that are balanced and things that are unbalanced, you'll know. But until that time, there's a lot of spirits out there. And I think about many of the masters. I think about Blavatsky. I think about, for some reason, Blavatsky is the only one that comes to mind right now. But there's just think about any Manly P. Hall. Think about any of the masters.
Agrippa.
They have all cautioned us, and even the writers of the Hebrew and the Christian scriptures say that the darkest of entities can transform themselves into angels and beings of light. So while I agree that we shouldn't walk around in fear and worry and doubt, I also think that we shouldn't accept every single spirit based on just what it says. And if you think, I'm respectfully suggesting that if you think that if you ask a spirit, is it of the light, and it says yes, that it can't lie, I would respectfully suggest to you that that's what they do. Some of them is lie. So make sure that you are well up on your discernment before you accept anything that comes in when you say, please, I ask for the light to come into me. That's just my 2 cents worth.
Yeah, I know I know a lot of magic. I don't perform it because I meditate on this. I do not want to be beholden to any spirit.
Great point, because they don't work for free.
No, they don't. And Jeff, I really mean this. If I'm sovereign, I'm not going to invoke, I'm not going to call, I'm not going to bow down, I'm not going to worship any other spirit than other myself. Yep. And I don't worship myself.
And somebody asked me the other day, well, what if I just call in angels? I'm like, hey, angels still got to get paid. They don't work for nothing. Whatever you call them, if you're asking or commanding other entities to do your bidding, there's going to be a remuneration at some point.
Let me just get back to this. So when I came out of the indoctrination, I call it the God spell. So we read in Samuel, Chronicles, we read in Exodus, we read of these archangels, and these are bad mofos. Man, I mean, these are bad dudes. I mean, they wipe out 180,000 people at a flick of a sword.
You'll love this. Gary Baxter says, gas, grass, or spiritual ass. No one writes free.
Gary, that's far out, buddy.
I remember bumper stickers somewhat like that.
I love it. My whole point is, they talk about Gabriel. If Gabriel exists, I don't know. I've never met him, but listen, I figured it out. I mean, I could be above him. It doesn't matter if it's a he or she. I don't know. But they're bad dudes. They kill humans.
Somebody in the chat room, just as you were saying that, Kenny said, trust no being whose name ends in L.
Exactly.
E-L. And that is really good advice.
Woo, perfect advice. And I told someone this, and I know that you and I are on the hot list of many of these people. Don't listen to these guys, yada, yada. But you know what? The thing about it is,
people are asking for more drug stories from you, Wayne. We are on the bad boy list of several.
Yes, we
folks.
are.
That's okay.
Yeah,
that's okay.
They kind of put us to the whole test. But my point is this: Jeff, listen, I almost converted to Judaism.
I know.
As Todd Rongren said, I saw the light. Rabbi Fuchs said, do the Jewish culture. Don't.
Do us a favor. Don't do it.
Don't. But I've got no desire to be Jewish. I respect their culture. I respect their longevity of the history. I don't want to be Jewish. I don't want to worship a Jewish God. I don't want to worship a Jewish divine religion. And so what is our choice? Where do we go? The problem I'm finding with magic, all the magic that came out of the Renaissance, the early Dark Ages, all is based on the Kabbalah.
Yep.
All of it. So what does that say? That says the origins of Kabbalah is magic itself.
And who started the Kabbalah? The scribes and Pharisees.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, kind sir. Can I have some more?
It's just unbelievable. If people knew what they were doing and what they were
Yeah.
defending, and it really is something.
People get, they get so freaked out, about demons. Oh, you're teaching witchcraft, Satanism and all the demons. And I'm shaking my head. Folks, show me one demon of Satan's kingdom that has killed one human.
I don't think you can.
You can't.
And I submit again to you, as going back to what you showed us earlier, if your God can be conjured, he's not a God.
Mm-mm.
He's something else that starts with the last letter of the word God.
It ain't pretty. And
Nope.
and that's my challenge to anyone out there. Just show me where any of these demons, I don't care how high they go, show me where they've killed one human being.
Yep.
And the way I'm looking at this, it seems like all witchcraft, all magic, all sorcery goes right back to Kabbalah.
Mm-hmm. And Wayne, here's an interesting thought. Show me a demon that's killed anybody. And I'm thinking about this being that has usurped the name of the Tetragrammaton. I don't think that's really his name, but this God of the Bible. I don't know, Wayne, if he has actually killed anyone either.
Mm.
He's Charlie Manson. He's the celestial Charlie Manson.
Yes.
And you know why he doesn't do it, Wayne? I found this out. I don't know if you noticed. I did a show this week about blood guilt.
Yes.
And blood guilt says if you kill humanity, you're guilty and you must be killed by humanity. So this being of the Bible has been so smart that he gets somebody else to do his killing, so they take on his guilt. And he's even smarter. He gets them to make a deal where they'll keep coming back in this mortal body where they can keep taking his blood guilt, and he can keep on going legally free of the blood guilt.
Holy crap. I mean, that's the Costa Nostra. I mean, that's the Godfather.
Yep. This little thing we have.
I mean, what we're talking about, I ain't got no blood in my hand.
Yeah.
Where's
Rocky Stucci when you need him?
Why when you need him? I mean,
it's just a little, you do a thing, I do a thing.
It's family. It's family.
It's family. Yeah.
Yeah. And I hear you so often say, I don't want a part of this family. I mean, I don't want anything to do with it because no one gets out alive.
And interestingly enough, Wayne, if you read on the Encyclopedia of Judaica, blood atonement transfers to the family. I'm so glad I'm a part of the family of God. It transfers to the generations. We're a chosen generation. And there's one more. Generations, family, and I forget the third one, but it's another Christian-esque thing that we like to celebrate.
And while you're saying that, you know what I'm hearing in the back of my head? Onward, Christian soldiers, marching as to war. With the hope of Jesus.
With the sword of Jesus.
With the sword of Jesus. Ay, ay, ay.
Marching on before.
I mean.
Oh, and even to the city. And Augustine wrote the book, The City of God. Christianity is the city of God. They are telling you that you are taking on the blood guilt of their God in your generations, in your family, in your city. Come on, folks. Wakey, wakey, eggs and bakey. If you want to do that, that's fine, but you don't have to. And I think that's where people get lost, Wayne, and this just hit me, is when people hear us say things about the Christian God, the God of the Bible, they equate leaving the God of the Bible to going into atheism. It doesn't even enter into their mind that there might be another option.
Yes.
It's not worship the God of the Bible or be an atheist.
No.
There's many, many choices in between.
I sing praises in my meditation time. I know that there is this thing called the creative force, this thing that permeates everything, even the things I can't see. It permeates me. I'm a part of it. And you know what? I acknowledge it. My spirit is grateful for the fact that I have consciousness. Now, you show me where that's wrong. You show me where that is being disrespectful.
Thank you, Joanne.
I mean, to me, isn't that what praise is to be in thanksgiving?
Absolutely.
I don't know. But to the cult of Bacchus is one of the gods that they tried to use in the early days of Christianity. The problem was
That was
that
a good time. Bacchus worship.
it was
If
wild.
I've got to sign up for one, maybe that one.
I mean, that one might be close. But you just nailed it. It is this contract. Now, I'm going to tell everyone tomorrow on my show that this is something they need to go and look back. There have been people who have been in lucid dreaming where they were shown they had a contract. And
ooh, I've never heard that.
yes. Well, if you take what Paul wrote in Colossians, that he said, the note, the deed, the bond that had been held hostile against us, all of our existence, in essence.
Ooh, so you're suggesting that wasn't merely metaphorical writing?
I don't think it was. I think it was literal.
And going back to it, I'm living out in the country now, and I pulled up to this crossroad, Wayne, out in the country, and I'm thinking, they talk about crossroad demons. Let me just ask, is there a crossroad demon here? And surely enough, there was one. And what is there when you make this, you go in an old lore, you go to a crossroad, you make a deal with the demon, I'll give you this, you give me that, you shed some blood, and the pact is sealed. And what do you do when you go to a church? You go up and you stand in front of a cross. I'll give you this, you give me that, there's bloodshed involved, and you got a deal. I'm almost of the belief that modern day Christian salvation ritual is nothing more than a inside version of the old crossroad demon lore. And Jesus, he's really nothing but a super strong crossroad demon. And if you follow the show Supernatural, this guy named Crowley, who was just a crossroad demon at the beginning of the show, ended up being the king of hell later in the show. So I think Jesus is a crossroad demon that just has had some promotions.
I love this. It goes back to, the whole ball where...
And he is having one, too, a ball.
Yeah. Did you ever see that movie, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
I did not see it.
Oh, you have to watch it, because in that scene, they actually pick up a guy, this black dude that's got a guitar, and, the three brothers that escaped out of prison. And one guy says, well, what were you doing out here? He says, well, I heard a story that if you come out to the crossroads at about midnight, that the devil himself will appear, and you can ask the devil anything you want. And I forget the one character. He says, well, what'd you say to the devil? And the devil came up to me and said, boy, what would you like from me? And he said, I told Mr. Devil I'd like to learn how to play this guitar. And the devil said, well, boy, I can grant that. It's cost you one thing. Of course, one of the brothers looks back and said, well, what did he want? Well, he wanted my soul. He wanted your soul? He said, yeah, well, I gave him my soul. I said, it ain't doing me no good. And now I can play this guitar.
Wow.
Kind of puts it into perspective, So
it does.
You have to watch that movie, seriously.
And there's a lot of those stories about people doing that.
Well, and I had completely forgotten about that, the crossroads. I mean, and that's lore that goes way back.
Oh, back as far as we know.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I mean, this is the stuff of Lilith. This is the stuff of Samuel, the days of, I guess, the original occupants of this planet.
Oh, that's an interesting point, too.
Well, you did a story, and I know it's in the book of, I think it's in Jeremiah. I could be wrong. Maybe it's Isaiah that talks about the great cities that no man inhabited.
Jeremiah 4:23. Thank
you, sir. So, very evident that there was something else here.
Yeah, and Lisa Renee, energetic synthesis, Jill brings up in the chat room, that even when you're not coming from a religious standpoint, and Lisa Renee doesn't, she comes from a metaphysical UFO energetic standpoint, and she even talks about in that realm crucifixion implants.
Ooh.
and that's very powerful. And by the way, on June 29th at 2 p.m., that's a Saturday, June 29th at 2 p.m., I'm very excited. On my channel, I'm going to have Laura Eisenhower and Magenta Pixie together for our show right here on this channel. That's going to be powerful. One of the great minds of the UFO, that type of awareness. Magenta Pixie, arguably one of the greatest minds in the New Age movement. And then me, whatever I do, it should be interesting, if nothing else.
The contrarian.
The happy contrarian.
Hey, it just keeps the conversation lively.
How can you be in this world today? And contrarian means to be against the commonly accepted status and beliefs. How could we as spiritual people be anything other than happy contrarians in this day? And the happy part is the only part that's hard to work on. The contrarian we just need to be, it seems to me.
It's a safe route. I mean, aren't we taught to say no?
And that was used as an insult to me, but I mean, I wear that like a badge of honor.
Oh, yeah.
I am the happy contrarian.
Yeah. Listen, I'm more alive now, and I would say this, that creative force, I'm more in tune to it.
Oh, absolutely.
The decades that I was in the religion I was in, it was a constant conflict. I mean, it wore my soul down, you know?
I think it's designed to, Wayne.
Yeah, you just get so freaking tired. I mean, they're near the end. I'd tell Lynn, I said, I'm not going. I said, it freaking drains me to sit there.
Wow. And I think it literally does. They're consuming your energy. It's a great big, it's a smorgasbord, and the bigger the church, the more items on the menu.
Oh, isn't it true? And we need a new jet. But Jeff, I think the most peaceful thing about it is, I used to wake up, quoting the Psalms where it says that, His word comforts me as I lay myself down, and as I awake, His word awaits and greets me.
Yeah. And
that always brought it. It didn't bring the comfort that you would think, because attached to it is this it's this wagon train you're pulling because you're not good enough.
Wayne, it's funny because the one I used to pull from the Psalms was, I will both lay me down in peace and sleep, for thou, Lord, only makes me dwell in safety.
All right, let's just examine that right there. Isn't that odd? Because if you dissect that, what's the opposite of safety? Danger.
Right.
And so, wait a minute. I'm laying myself down in safety in you. Well, if I'm not in you, then that implies what?
That you're in danger. But the rest of the story is that He prepares a table for me in the presence of my enemies. Oh, isn't that so nice? He prepares a table for me. I started thinking, wait a second. I can't even have a meal without worrying about my enemies. If this God is so great, why can't He at least put the chow hall in the back lines where there's not any enemies? So at least I could eat some pancakes without worried about getting shot. But He doesn't want you to relax. He wants you to be worried. He wants you to be afraid, because when you're worried and you're afraid, you're dependent. And when you're dependent, you're under control.
It gets right back to that whole point. So the definition of worship is what?
I'm sorry, Wayne, but I got distracted. Somebody was talking about the reason they went to church was to go make out with the preacher's daughter. And then a response comes back, it's much better to be felt up by a nice Christian boy. I'm sorry, you asked me a question?
No, actually, that has happened more than just to one of us.
Yeah, that's for sure.
That's the first time I found out. Anyway, but
anyway.
So the definition of worship is what?
The definition of worship really is to give your power to another being.
I mean, isn't that it?
That's exactly what it is.
So the question
you could say worship is It's an exchange of cosmic energy, one giving, one taking. You could say worship is astral sex.
I think it would be. Well, in fact, doesn't Paul say that?
When you are delivering worship, what you're really doing is giving cosmic fellatio.
Oh, it's the ultimate coitus.
Or cosmic cunnilingus. That's the way I think about it. Very submissive, very subservient, and you're doing it willingly, and they're just taken. And it's not quid pro quo. It's not making love, it's getting.
Well, that's just what happens. You get drained, man. It just sucks it out of you. But
think about that next time you go to a worship service. And a lot of times they want you to do what in a worship service?
Bow.
Get on your knees.
Get on your knees. Well, that's what YouTube says. If you want to learn how to pray, get on your knees, boy. And when you think about when you're on your knees, what is your face facing on the other person?
Exactly.
I mean, I don't know. And if they're turned ass backwards, guess what you get? The ass end.
Classic Christian postures. On your knees and in surrender.
That's it.
And how many times do you see people on their knees with their hands up?
Well, you have to open wide.
You either see that on cops or in church. That's the only two places. You see people on their knees with their hands up.
Gary says, get that corn out of my face.
Well, the problem is when you're on your knees with your hands up, it's real easy to put the corn in your face.
It's all there. This is symbology. This is what this is. And then you can get into the sigils because it's kiss my ass, boy. That's what it is.
I mean, think of the posture when we would go up to the altar, get on your knees, and you kneel on that altar.
Oh God!
That's a perfect posture to be buggered. Folks, it's not, I'm not trying to be crass, but think about it. Think about the mental, psychological, and they build those churches in specific ways, folks.
Oh, it gets worse. I mean, now I'm sitting here and, I've seen those worship services where people come down to the altar and they're crying and they got their ass up in the air with their heads down.
Exactly.
I'm sitting here going, now I get it.
Exactly. And all these years, Wayne, we didn't even see that stuff.
No. Oh, man.
Dances on Wave says, in the Catholic Church, you go up there, you get on your knees, and you open your mouth.
That's what, You
and
open
the priest puts something in your mouth.
Yeah.
And sometime during church, it's the Jesus cookie. After church, it can be different.
Well,
and guess what? Right. Guess what? All you Protestants pointing your fingers at the Christians, wait, it's coming. They just released a report of like 1,700 Southern Baptist people abusing children, sexual abuse. So get ready. It ain't a Catholic problem. It's a Christian problem. And I'm telling you, it's part of the
religion.
It's a built-in sacrament of the religion. It's not an aberration.
It is. Always has been. People won't study the popes, but if they do, this is what I couldn't understand. For the first 200 or 300 years, most of the popes were gay and pedophiles. They had altar boys. That's where it comes from, folks.
Think about why are there altar boys?
Yeah. Because Paul teaches
it's an Abrahamic problem. Think of even in the Muslim religion, 50-year-old men marrying 12, 13-year-old girls.
Yep.
What do you call that?
Well, today you get your ass sent up for a long time, but
if you're in a Muslim country.
No, this is true. This is true. And now here in the United States, in certain states, in certain locales, they now have, get this, they have Islamic tribunals set up next to judges.
That's craziness.
So, and mark my words, it's why the FBI and the Justice Department won't prosecute.
One of our subscribers here says that they have an uncle who was a youth minister who did prison time for child molestation.
It's everywhere.
It is everywhere.
It's, I hate to say it, but is a part of the human psyche. And I don't know why. I don't know if it's because that one time that the lifespan was so short that, I don't buy that any longer. That's what I heard for the longest time was that, well, this is why this creeps up.
Now it makes sense. I remember people used to talk about, and this is true, that, the steeples on Christian churches are emblematic of an erect phallus.
Mm-hmm.
So It just makes perfect sense. You're going to church to get boom.
Oh, man. Talk about feeling the spirit, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Feel the spirit.
Oh, boy. And
that makes you wonder about the lyrics, "Come quickly, Lord Jesus."
Doesn't it? And, didn't the Vatican just rule that they would not allow outside authority, if there is a reported pedophilia or child abuse, it's not to report it to the authorities, but it goes through the Vatican process first, right?
I haven't seen that, but that has been their de facto policy, if not official policy, for as long as there's been a Catholic Church.
I have the article in my archives, and it's just, I don't know. I wish that there would be the day when humanity would rid itself of religion.
Oh, that's exactly where I was going with Lit T, because she said you want them to finish quickly in those situations. So maybe that was the true motivation for that song, "Come quickly, Lord Jesus."
Mm.
And even the Southern Baptists said that they prefer to handle it in-house. I bet they do.
Yeah, I bet they do.
That's a problem. Yeah. They've been handling it in-house since AD 300.
And again, it just divides people. People say, well, homosexuality, is it a sin? I contend that if it started from the very beginning, then God himself is a homosexual.
Or would God be bisexual?
Well, maybe but if you look at his construct, his whole inner sanctum are all men, are all males.
Ooh, why is it all the priests, all the imams, and a vast majority of even the ministers, they're all men?
They're all men.
And you know what's so funny?
The Masonic lodges, the same way.
I'm thinking of Joyce Myers, even the ones that are women, most of them wear pants.
Yeah, and they never get into the inner sanctum.
Oh, that's so true.
So what's going on here, folks? I mean,
wow. Is it because the feminine essence wouldn't stand for it?
I think so.
It's very interesting. There's 3 or 4 nuns that have come out. I can't think of any priests that have come out.
Mm-mm. Yeah, and I think that when the real story comes out of how this has been through the millennia, it's not a pretty picture. It really isn't.
Yeah.
The feminine. Why has the feminine been purposely maligned, absolutely abstracted from all dogma, and resorted to the position of servitude or sexuality?
And hopefully both.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't make sense. Even modern day Christianity is anti-female.
Even with all of the Paula Whites and all of that, do you still think there's a current undercurrent?
Well, listen, they're violating the very doctrine Pauline.
Of course they are, but nobody talks about that.
No, yeah. So wait a minute. What do we got here? But it's true. Isn't it not true?
It is true. It's absolutely 100% true.
I mean, when I was at Rhema Bible College, and I looked at all the women out there, and it was by far more women in the Bible college than men. And their roles were already regulated out to support services.
Because it was just like all the other ones. It's really Rhema Bridal College.
It is true. It is.
They all were bridal colleges.
Oh.
That's why girls go to Bible college.
Yeah.
It's bridal college. That's chauvinistic, but I'm just trying to tell you how it was.
And the thing, when you read the book of Hebrews, I never could understand that near the end, it was the women who apparently was, the way I look at it, supporting this religion.
Well, even the people that believe that Jesus was a real dude and he did those real things. Most people have come to the realization that if he was a guy doing this stuff, that there was a lady called Mary Magdalene that was funding it.
Mm-hmm.
She was a rich, so basically Jesus was Mary Magdalene's cabana boy.
And according to Dr. Charles, in his book, In Search of the Historical Jesus, Joseph of Arimathea took in Mary, Jesus' mother, when Joseph, who was a mason, a stonemason, was not a carpenter, died. And apparently the story is he apparently had an accident.
Yeah, during the rebuilding of a Roman city, and I can't remember the name of the city.
Yeah, yep. And so Joseph of Arimathea took in Mary and her children, and he
as a wife.
And what people didn't realize, that Joseph of Arimathea controlled all the mining interest of the Roman Empire.
Interesting.
You want to talk about wealth? It makes the boys today look like paupers.
So you could almost argue that Mary was a concubine of the Roman Empire.
Well, hey, listen, Flavius Josephus, I rest my case.
Absolutely.
And, you know, Ken Humphreys had that right. Not Ken Humphreys, excuse me.
What? Lit T hits on something really interesting. And most of them wear this as a badge of honor, but really what's going on, Lit T says that a lot of the churches, or it's mostly the churches, that are responsible for sheltering and resettling illegal aliens when they come into this country, breaking the laws. What price are these poor people paying for the support and shelter they're getting from the churches?
Well, what comes to mind is Romans 8:28 in this thing. I mean,
thank you, Chris McNeil.
Did not Paul write that we were to obey the government?
Obey those that are in authority over you. And he goes a step further, Wayne. He says, for they don't bear the sword in vain.
Ooh.
So Paul tells you to listen to the government or they're going to get you. And my question to Christians is, how can you rally against vaccinations when the government says to take them? How can you be against homosexuality when the government says it's a protected right? Are you not supposed to obey those that are placed in authority over you? Isn't not God that raises up and sits down kings and presidents and congresses and governors? Why are you so hypocritical?
And Paul said exactly almost what you said. He said, if you disobey the law,
I was quoting him.
Yeah, then you're going to get the sword.
Yeah. Mess with the bull, you get the horn.
I mean, I don't know.
But how did we do it for me for 20 years? I don't know how long you were there. How can we, I'm trying to ask myself, how did I see those scriptures and ignore them? And the answer is you just don't look at them. And when people bring them up, we need to put that on the shelf. We're not going to talk about that. You're bringing, that's a bad spirit. You're getting into a bad area.
I was told that those were the unquestionables. You don't question God about that. Seriously, before I left and renounced Christianity, I went to the people who I thought were spiritual leaders and were asking them these hard questions, and they couldn't answer them. And I said...
Or wouldn't answer them.
Wouldn't is probably the better way of looking at it. I don't know.
Christianity demands hypocrisy.
Yeah, it really is that way.
Wayne, is that there? Because if you know anything about the Bible, you know that you're being hypocritical and you know that you're bearing the truth. Is that just another layer of the guilt? Another layer of the control? Well, how can you call us on this? You've been going along with it.
I think I revert to what Jefferson said. You know, when they asked about the Bible, he said, which part? Which one? You know, the New Testament. You've got the Gospels, which is a wonderful story because it's set into a Hebraic setting. But then you got this other part. What is it?
Yeah, Jefferson said that the New Testament has some of the most high moral attributes ever written by humans. But most of it, he says, is nothing but a pile of dung. There's a few diamonds,
yes, what
Jefferson said, mixed in with the dung. And he basically, I'm paraphrasing, he says, you have to be an idiot not to see that.
It's so plain. Well, okay, so we're talking here. I could never understand Corinthians. Here
Wayne,
was
did you legally sever your contract with the church?
I did.
Me too.
Yep. Um, for instance, Corinthians. In the first book, we got this story of Paul and his evangelical efforts, and he's got this church. But what happens in the church? Incest. You got a dude who is sleeping with his father's new wife.
Yeah.
And that's what the predication of the whole book is on.
Yep.
Am I right or am I wrong?
You're absolutely right.
Yeah. I mean, so it's the salacious thing. Like,
Yep.
oh, wow, man. I mean, what kind of setting goes on like this? It shows me it was very much, I don't know.
And it all starts, Wayne, when we walk down an aisle to a crossroads, get on our knees, give our soul in return for something back, get covered in the blood, and invite the Father and the Son to come live in our hearts, a.k.a. possess us.
And then, Jeff, I got to tell you, if there's one thing I regret most in my life was ever
No,
taking,
Gary, you have to do it yourself.
Yeah, you do, was the communion.
Oh, and that's the best part. We get to do not only human sacrifice, but cannibalism. Because why waste a good human sacrifice? When you killed it, you might as well eat it.
Someone was talking about the Eucharist. That's basically the phallic symbol going in your mouth.
Well, you're on your knees, your mouth are open.
Isn't that the flesh?
Isn't
it the flesh?
What part of the flesh is going in your mouth?
Think about it.
Ooh, oh boy.
I mean, no. When I went in for a,
but this is real, ladies and gentlemen. This is real.
Yeah, it's not laughing stuff. I laugh, but I do it out of the horror.
Yeah, we're shocked. We laugh to keep from throwing up.
It disgusts me. It really does. I mean, yeah, this blood sacrifice.
Oh, Wayne, at least it gives you a little wine to wash your mouth out.
Well, come on now.
Wow.
All right. Well, this has been quite not the normal Sunday show.
No, this is the real world. This is the new normal.
It is. And all we're doing is pointing out the obvious. And why? We lived it. We went through it. We actually did it with many of these people in this chat room today that's watching this.
And I hate to say this, but it's like who was Sally Beard is alluding to. And in the Catholic Church, you have to swallow.
Oh, God.
You do. And if you spit it out, the priest has to eat it.
Oh, you mean the sacrament?
Yes.
I did not know this.
Absolutely.
Well, that's pretty disgusting.
That is rather disgusting.
I'm just telling you, that's just, well, let me just say, that's just filthy.
And the symbology goes on and on and on.
I tell you, I believe many people who wake up on the other side and they finally go, I wasted my life for this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I often wonder, did I waste 20 years of my life? And the answer is yes and no.
No, I mean, well, let's be candid. We gained an enormous amount of knowledge. That knowledge, Jeff, has propelled me into the study now that I want to know about where did the stuff originate from. It's all back to spells.
Yeah.
And I woke up this morning.
And again, if you want to get into well, no, let's just move on. You woke up this morning.
Well, no, it's settling on my consciousness that this all goes back to magic, sigils, symbols. I think that the first humans who lost their telepathic capacity, Jeff, I think they communicated in sigils.
They did.
Yeah.
Somebody says, no wonder I always want a cigarette after church.
uh,
Oh boy.
oh boy. Ay, ay, ay.
Well, Wayne,
Yes.
that's another not your normal Sunday show.
What a barn burner this one is.
Wow. Wow, wow,
Yeah,
wow,
yeah,
wow,
yeah, yeah,
wow.
yeah. Well, all right. Well, what a week.
And by extension, isn't the church just the concubine of the priest because he's servicing all those people?
Oh, yeah. It's interesting. You use
And
the
it's
word.
a male and a female concubine.
Yeah.
Anyway, Wayne,
Yes,
it's
sir.
been fun, but
It
I
has
got to
been.
run.
Yeah, I bet you do. Well, have a good week. What you got going on this week?
I don't even know. There's so much stuff coming up. It's we got Robert Bauer.
Yeah.
We've got trying to work out with I Am Monica 57. If you haven't seen her channel, check it out. Of course, we got Pixie. We got Laura Eisenhower. We got Robert Stanley coming up tomorrow on The Last Stand.
Good deal.
And there's a bunch of stuff I'm forgetting too. And yesterday we had Chase Corrington.
I saw
Check
that.
out his channel.
I watched that. Watched that interview.
Great young guy. How old would you think Chase is? Is he late 20s?
I say late 20s. Yeah.
It's nice. We got some good people coming up. And then we had Green Greggs as well. Check him out. He teaches you a lot of good stuff. What a funny guy.
He is a crack up.
He is.
Reminds me of Red Green, but not without the beard.
And the dude is a aerospace engineer he's a rocket scientist.
Yeah. I love it. He discovered it. Yeah.
Wow.
Figured it out.
That's amazing stuff. It really is.
All right. Well, have a great week.
And you're teaching more about sigils?
Yeah. Got a birthday coming up this week. So,
Well, happy birthday to you.
Thank you. Thank you. It's sigils and bringing back Talking with the Planets. So I'm looking forward to that.
Talking with the planets again.
Yeah. Yep. Listen,
are one of those planets cross?
You know, it's really interesting on the sigil of the cross. But to answer, no, none of the planets have the cross.
But are any of them cross, like mean?
No, but there is, apparently Saturn is been hostile takeover is the best thing
Really?
I can say. Yeah. It's very interesting because can we just talk Saturn and Yahweh, the Elohim, strong connection.
Interesting. Is Uranus upset about his name?
He's got the ass end of the deal. What do you want? And they thought Pluto was the way out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All righty. Since I slipped in a Uranus joke, I'm happy.
It has to happen. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you to all of you in the chat room. Thank you to Wayne. This was one for the archives, Wayne.
It's going to be. By the way, next month, 2 years.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Leah says Uranus jokes never get old.
They never do.
It's childish and as immature as it is. I love it.
We have fun with it. It makes us laugh. And I went back. We started.
What color is Uranus? Is it green, blue?
Blue.
Blue, okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, blue. Very powerful.
Well, no wonder he's blue. Everyone's always laughing at him.
Well, he passes wind all the time,
He does. Cynthia L. says, after all these years, Wayne finally laughed at a Uranus joke.
Listen, I get it. It's just, yeah.
Oh, well, Wayne, it's my inner child.
I love it, Jeff. I love it. So anyway.
Tracy says that's a personal. I didn't ask what color. I didn't say, Wayne, what color is Uranus? I did, didn't I? I said, what color is Uranus?
Well, I know what he was talking about.
Tracy Dyer, you can't take her anywhere.
I'm telling you what. We have to serve liquor when she comes in,
Somebody says Uranus blue. All right. Have a great day, Wayne.
Now
Have
I get with
day,
Anubis. I'm getting this how all these. Yeah. Okay. Let's move on.
Wow. All right. I obviously have low blood sugar and need to eat.
All right. Thanks, Jeff.
I love you, brother. Take care.
Love you too, man. All right. Bye-bye.